The story of a struggling franchise never begins with a loss on the field. It begins in the quiet places, the front office, the meeting rooms, the moments when leaders are forced to defend decisions that may reshape a city's hope. And today, Joe Schoen finds himself standing in the center of that storm. He doesn't shout. He doesn't panic. But the weight on his shoulders is heavy enough to crush most men. The New York Giants are bruised, battered, and limping through a season filled with more questions than answers, and yet Schoen steps forward with a steadiness that feels almost defiant. He knows what they're saying. He knows the frustration boiling in the fan base, the whispers about roster decisions, the doubts about the franchise's direction. And still, he looks the football world in the eye and says, quietly but firmly, we have a plan. But plans don't silence critics. Results do. And right now, results feel like a distant memory for a team that once stood on top of the NFL world. Schoen speaks anyway, because he has to. Because leadership isn't optional when the walls tremble. He talks about injuries, development, long-term vision. He defends the very foundation he's building. And somewhere between the lines, you can hear the truth, he's not running from this. He's owning it. Yet as the Giants search for answers, the league marches forward, unstoppable and unforgiving. And on the horizon waits a Thanksgiving night clash so bright, so explosive, you can almost hear the electricity humming in the air. Cowboys. Lions. Two teams chasing glory for entirely different reasons. Dallas plays with a swagger that feels carved into their DNA. Every year is their year, every win a statement, every loss a warning sign. But this season feels different. Dak Prescott looks sharper. The defense hits harder. The noise, for once, isn't drowning them, it's fueling them. Detroit, on the other hand, carries the heartbeat of a city that has suffered more than its share of sports heartbreak. But these Lions, they don't flinch anymore. Dan Campbell has built a team that bites, scratches, and believes like they've already lived through the worst. And maybe they have. Thanksgiving football has a rhythm to it, a nostalgia, a pressure that only a few teams truly understand. But this year, the matchup feels almost cinematic, a franchise that demands greatness against one that's finally tasting it. Schoen watches all of this from afar, not as a GM studying opponents, but as a reminder of what a complete, cohesive team can become. The Giants want that. New York craves that. But right now, they're still in the rebuilding shadows, fighting for pieces while the league's brightest lights shine elsewhere. Meanwhile, Dallas and Detroit rise like two storms ready to collide. Prescott enters this matchup with something to prove. He's tired of narratives, tired of labels, tired of the weight of, almost. This game isn't just a showcase, it's a declaration that the Cowboys are more than hype. Across the field, Jared Goff walks with a quiet steadiness that mirrors the city he represents. Detroit doesn't need flash, they need belief. And Goff, in his own unassuming way, has given them exactly that. The Lions run the ball with fury, block with purpose, and tackle with a hunger that feels personal. Every play screams of a franchise tired of being overlooked, tired of being the punchline, tired of waiting. Campbell has them playing like warriors. McCarthy has Dallas playing like contenders. And together, they're about to turn Thanksgiving into a battlefield. The crowd will roar, the lights will burn hot, and two visions of football will clash, raw grit versus polished execution. But somewhere between those storylines hangs another thread, one tied tightly to Joe Schoen's world. It's a reminder that this league moves fast. That rebuilds don't wait. That patience isn't promised. Because while the Cowboys chase redemption and the Lions chase destiny, the Giants chase something even more fragile, identity. Schoen's words echo not because they're dramatic, but because they're honest. He talks about the offensive line being young, the quarterback situation needing stability, the defense needing reinforcements. He speaks with a conviction that doesn't care about public approval. You can sense the fire beneath the calm, a man who refuses to let a franchise sink on his watch. But words alone cannot shift a franchise. Actions must follow. Draft picks must hit. Star players must stay healthy. Coaches must adapt. And fans must believe, even when belief feels like a luxury. As Cowboys and Lions fans gear up for a night dripping with excitement, Giants fans sit with something heavier, hope mixed with doubt, faith mixed with frustration. Still, hope is a powerful thing. Even in New York, even now. And perhaps that's why Schoen speaks so firmly, because he knows the story isn't over. Rebuilds aren't linear. Progress doesn't happen without pain. And sometimes, the darkest seasons birth the brightest dawns. In Dallas, the expectation is glory. In Detroit, the expectation is resurrection. In New York, the expectation is honesty, and Schoen is delivering exactly that. The Cowboys arrive ready to flex. Terrifying pass rush, explosive weapons, a quarterback who finally looks unburdened. They want this game, not just for standings, but for pride, for legacy, for validation. The Lions arrive ready for war. Their running backs pound the ground like a drum. Their receivers fight for every inch. Their defense hits with a defiance born from decades of doubt. Thanksgiving night will not be gentle. It will be violent, passionate, emotional, football the way it's meant to feel. Millions will watch. Millions will yell. Millions will witness a moment that could shift the balance of two rising contenders. But somewhere in that chaos, somewhere in that roar, a quieter story still unfolds in New York. A GM fighting for trust. A franchise fighting for identity. A fan base fighting for belief. Schoen's defense of the Giants isn't a plea. It's a promise. A promise that they will rise again. A promise that the pain has a purpose. A promise that rebuilding is not retreat, it is preparation. And as Cowboys and Lions fans lose their voices in a night of fire and fury, Giants fans hold on to something softer, but no less powerful, the belief that better days are coming. Not tomorrow, not instantly, but inevitably. Because football is a story. A long, winding, unpredictable story. And the Giants aren't finished writing theirs. As the Thanksgiving lights shine, as Dallas and Detroit clash in a storm of ambition and pride, the Giants stand at the beginning of a different journey, quieter, slower, but necessary. And when the dust settles on this season, when the critiques fade and the noise finally calms, one truth will remain. Every great comeback starts with someone brave enough to defend the foundation. And tonight, Joe Schoen is that someone.